I work in a team that supports the creative agencies of our large global brands. It's a new initiative that we're doing, really starting to focus on global brands and how Google can best support them. The reason we're doing that is because I think traditionally digital, Google as well, has very much been a DR mechanism. And we feel that with our global platform, we are able to deliver, thank you so much, we're able to deliver true brand experiences. I'm not really going to talk about Google today. That was one of the options, and I felt that it would maybe be a bit trite just to come along and do like a product overview. So what I want to talk about is the insights that we're getting into consumers that hopefully give us an indication of the way the world is going. I'm also going to talk about some macro trends that are driving that. Some of the things, pick up some of the stuff that Candice mentioned in terms of the new opportunities that exist, the new wave of celebrities that are coming out, and then just give a context about where we see brands succeeding in this environment, because it's still relatively early days. It's going to be pretty snappy, so I've got about 20 minutes, and I'll try and keep it quick. I've only got one chart, so I'll give you a warning when that comes up. There's a couple of videos that probably won't work, and I've tried to use as many pictures as possible. I do tend to go off on tangents, so feel free to stop me when that happens. So very quickly, the context is that the pace of change is just quickening. So what we've got here, you can probably see this more clearly on the large screen on the right. You've got the number of days that it took these devices to reach 1 million units sold. And I just think what you see here is that there's just been a huge, and we're still in the midst of it, a huge revolution in terms of computing. So you see the iPod took over a year to get to a million different devices that were sold. You fast forward right through to the end, and you've got, if you don't know what it's called, Chromecast, £35 dongle that you put in the back of your TV, and suddenly your television is an internet TV. And I think what we see is that these technologies can have a massive impact in such a short period of time. The iPad is only 4 or 5 years old. Android as an operating system is only 5 years old. We're now activating about 1.5 million devices a day. And I just think this is the kind of context that brands and consumers are operating in. And I think also as well what's important is it can happen very quickly. You can go from an industry disruptor to being obsolete in the space of 13 years. So the last Apple talk, they were talking about they're going to sunset this because now it's a relatively irrelevant device. You think back, in the time since the iPod was launched, iTunes was launched, and now they're starting to talk about it becoming a streaming service. MySpace launched in 2003. Facebook still didn't exist. So we see these cycles can happen with increasing frequency. And I think the main thing that's driving it, or the main outcome of this is it's now personal. So computing has shifted from being something that you had in a place, so on your work desk, at home, to now something that you carry around with you all the time. So we now see that personal computing devices, phones, tablets, are outstripping the sales of desk-bound ones. And from a Google perspective, we're seeing this rampage through our business as well. So we see in some sectors more than 50% of the searches are now done on mobile devices. And we expect, Japan has already flipped over entirely in terms of more than 50% are done on mobile devices. And we expect to see that happen over the course of the next 6 to 12 months in the UK and other places as well. And I think what this then leads to is these devices then become very, very different. They're personal, so it's yours. You can personalize it. It's your space. It's your way of interacting with the world. And I think, it's also changing behaviors. And I was reading this week in China, they've now got smartphone lanes to deal with the people who are constantly walking through. I call them phone zombies, where they're basically if you didn't open the door for them, you do wonder if they'd actually walk into it. So they've now set up cell phone lanes. I think what's funny here from this picture, you can see that the girl is telling the bloke something really important, and he's checking his social status or something likewise. So we're starting to see these behavioral shifts come through. So I think mobile is the main driver of that. And I think then when you take the fact that you've got that personal device, you couple that with an unprecedented computer, i.e. cloud computing, that enables you to store, to distribute, to publish. And then you have the platforms that are excelling on that. You've got a new generation of content creators. So all the tools are there for you to reach an audience of literally billions of people with the push of a button. And that power is obviously like a very, very new thing that the individual has had. And we're starting to see that 68% of teenagers have recorded and shared a video in the last month. We're starting to see people migrate their communications into these different types of environments. And I think it's leading to a phenomena where your audience as a brand now has its own audience as well. And I think that means you have to think about the messaging that you put in front of them. And you have to think about how you interact with them, their motivations in terms of what they want to then share. This is a very, very quick overview of the number of different connections that people have across these different platforms. So we looked at some of the averages of number of people that they've got on Facebook. It's about 250 to 300. Twitter, et cetera, et cetera. So you've got suddenly people have these means of distribution. And then also you've got the content that they're publishing below that. So there's about 100 hours of video put onto YouTube every minute. So this is a lot of this is user-generated content. A lot of it's professional. You've got Instagram, where you've got 3,500 images are being put up every second. So there's a huge amount of content that is being created there. So people now have the ability to respond, to comment, to share. To choose is probably the most important bit. They choose the content that they want to engage with as well. And all of this means that it's very, they're no longer reliant on self-appointed curators of content like newspapers. They're no longer reliant on self-appointed arbiters of taste. They're finding celebrities and taste influencers within their own circles, and they're also becoming that as well. So we're starting to see some real behavioral shifts in terms of the rise of the selfie. So there's two great examples here from recently where the Queen apparently is expressing interest in the fact that most people now look at her or don't look at her. They show her the back of their head and then try and take a picture. The guy on the left became a sensation in Spain, mainly because he's a Muppet. He took a photo of himself running with the bulls, and it became this big campaign to try and find him because this is against the spirit of the running with the bulls. But I think what's interesting here is that celebrity used to be a one-way thing, and now it's becoming something that's two-way. And now the fan takes a photo of themselves, of the celebrity, and it's not necessarily to keep as a memento. It's something to share. It's something to get other people to comment on. It's something that it's almost becoming a little bit like what they call glotographs. It's to show people that you've met those people. And I think then what's interesting is we've got the death of the autograph book. So what we've got on the right here is a selfie line. So these are a couple of YouTube creators. They were at VidCon, and they just lined up all the people who wanted a selfie with them and then worked their way down the line. You can see taking photo. He works his way through, does a little smile, takes the photo, and then the next one starts to come behind him. So it's a really, really efficient way of giving people what they want. And what's interesting, this is like Sam Pepper, so he's got about 2.2 million YouTube subscribers. So if he wants to get through them all, this is an efficient way to do it. But when you hear some of these creators talk, so there's a guy called Ralphie Fine who says, they're a firm believer that they and their audience should be the same. There shouldn't be that barrier between them and the people who they're interacting with. So they reply to everybody who comments on their videos. When people tweet them, they're constantly getting back in touch with them, and they're really cultivating that. And I think for a brand, that's quite a scary place to be, that you're there to respond to your consumer, that the conversations move from simply shouting at them that you've got a new product and it costs this, to asking them their opinion and then having to respond to it as well. We did a session in Cannes with Nestle, where we brought in Zoella's boyfriend, so the person who Candace mentioned earlier, and as he came out, he took a photo of himself with the crowd behind him, and he posted it onto Facebook, and then he did his talk, and he talked for about 20 minutes. And at the end, he said, listen, Nestle, I've been on to your most popular brand on Facebook. It's Nespresso. And I've seen that your most popular post is a post that George Clooney put up there, global star, huge attraction. And he showed it, and the post from George Clooney had 2,500 likes. And then he said, here's the photo I took of myself when I came out here that I posted, and he put it up, and it had 40,000 likes in the 20 to 30 minutes since he'd got up on stage. And suddenly the brand people were like, Jesus, you've got an audience, and they hadn't really thought about him in that way before. They'd seen him as more of a novelty. So we're starting to see this, this shift coming, and we talked about these new celebrities. What you've got two on the right here. I'm just going to play a really short video. Just turn that down. So anyone who's familiar with Covent Garden, this is Covent Garden kind of piazza, and what you've got here is, you can kind of see in the middle, the girl is Tanya Burr. So Tanya Burr tweeted to her followers that she was going to go down to the Apple store in Covent Garden, and within 3 hours, these people had turned up, all there, wanting to be part of it, and they had to close the streets off, and ultimately they had to take her out. What I find fascinating is I can really understand the young girls, but every so often you can see a middle-aged man just kind of lurking in the background with his phone, hopefully looking to get a picture for his, for his daughter, or who knows, maybe more nefarious reasons. So what we've got now is that the creators and also the channels that they are part of have got the same reach as traditional TV channels. The data that you've got on the right is US data from Nielsen. So YouTube now reaches more 18 to 34-year-olds than any other cable channel in the US. So that's massive. For us, that's absolutely huge. And it's a vindication of a strategy that we've gone through to really invest in high-quality content, to work with people who are already making high-quality content, such as studios and film companies, but also to enable a grassroots movement of this new content creator. We're really starting to see some success there. Now anybody can be a producer, can write, can create this content and get it live. But we find with our partner program, we can accelerate them in terms of making stuff that is, is really compelling to this audience. And what you can see on the left are, again, these are US figures. These are just some of the most popular categories that we've got on YouTube. So you can see that it's actually quite a broad, it's a broad reach of content that's available there. If you want to learn how to play the guitar, there's a video for that. Sail a boat, tie a bow tie, you can go on there and get a six-pack. All of these things are catered for. And it's been likened to, it's almost like the old magazine shelf in a newsagent, where you've obviously got your mass reach titles are in there, but you've also got Practical Boat Owner or Wooden Craft. All of these things are there. All of these passions are catered for. And the followers are broadcasters too. So these are people who then took videos of themselves going to meet Tanya at Covent Garden or at other events, and then they're posting them and putting them onto YouTube. They're sharing them with their fans as well, and they're really starting to push that out, and you start to see the ripple effect. So hopefully you'll agree that mobile computing's led to this massive phenomena. You couple that with ubiquitous Wi-Fi, fast 3G networks, and also these tools that can basically create content. Then what does that mean for a brand? And it means quite a lot. I mean, we're starting to see James Hilton from AKQA titled this as being digital landfill. So there's do's and there's don'ts here. What I would urge you is don't create digital landfill. Don't just jump on a new, shiny, innovative trend just because you feel that it's the way to reflect well on your brand. This is an example of Kelly Osbourne holding a sign for Wheat Thins Popped. Wheat Thins Popped ran a competition where you could go into a booth, and they called it a selfie competition, but they actually took your photo holding a wheat thin sign, and then they threw 10 of them out of a hat for a chance to have their name held on a board by Kelly Osbourne that she then shared with her fans. And it just seems a little bit like Dad dancing at the disco. There's no real awareness of what the product is or what people are looking to do. She shared it. It drew 20 comments, so she had 20 comments on it, and 9 of them were about her hair. So I think, as a brand, this might have seemed like, tick a box, there's something new, selfies, let's get on it. But actually, was this the right place? Was this the right place for that brand to be playing and the right way for them to be using this product? I personally like to listen to the people who lead the industry. So this is Mark Pritchard, CMO of the largest advertiser in the world. So I kind of feel he's probably got a fairly good handle on some of the stuff that's going. He spoke recently at Cannes, and he listed 3 rules, and 3 rules that he's pushing out through his organization. First of all, it's start with something true. So basically, there is no point in your brand trying to do something that is not consistent with the brand. Stay in the space that you're comfortable with. Stay in the space that makes sense for the brand to be there. So this is really about being real. The second one is, why should anyone give a crap? Like, why try and interrupt that digital journey with something that's irrelevant or try and force a different behavior? Look at the behaviors that exist already, and then try and do something that empowers that, makes it more relevant, makes it fun, and allows your brand to engage with them in a relevant way. And then the third one was about make the brand matter, make it authentic. And we're starting to see like a lot of work around here was what is the moment that matters? I know there's a talk later on from Twitter on this, but what's the moment that matters for your brand? You've got unprecedented access to information on what people are searching for, what they're clicking on, what they're responding to, what they're sharing. So it's simpler at least for you as a brand to be able to identify where the right time for you to have that conversation is. I would also as well look at Keith Wade, so he's the CMO of Unilever, second largest global advertiser as well. And the example I'm going to share here is a real one. It's a piece of work that we've done with Unilever. And the challenge was, Keith would call it, it's just chaos. There's just so much noise. Everyone talks about big data, but there's no real insights coming out of it. There's just a huge amount of volume, and we don't really know where the right place to play is. From a Google perspective, there's 11 billion searches were done in 2013 just on hair-related comments. There's about 7 billion videos viewed on YouTube about hair. So it just gives you an idea of like some of the passions that are there. And we worked with, one of Unilever's challenges here is they've got lots of products that could feasibly be relevant within that environment. So we worked with them to really start to try and get what we call clarity from the chaos. So this was about looking at, rather than guessing what people are interested in, we thought, well, they're already telling us. They're coming to that little white box every day in their millions, and they're typing in what it is they're looking for. So let's actually mine that information. We were able to mine it. We were able to see what the trends were. We were able to see the differences in markets. And then working with Unilever and their agency, we were then able to define, well, what's a good category play for Unilever in this space? We worked to partner them with authentic YouTube content creators, because the view was people are responding to Tanya Burr showing them how to do an updo, rather than responding to a brand trying to sell them a product. So let's try and tap into that. And it, by the way, also allows you to tap into their audiences. So we worked with them and their agency to partner with YouTube content creators. And then using the data, we defined, well, what are the most relevant answers to put in here? So we created a dedicated YouTube hub. It's called All Things Hair. When you go on there, you can personalize it to your hair type. So you can put in length, color, etc. You can also personalize it to the situation that you want to prepare your hair for. So it could be, I don't know, like a dinner or a prom or a date or whatever, an interview, etc. It also picks up on signals from you. So whenever I took these screen grabs on Monday, it was quite a warm day in the area that I was in London, where I live. I live in Walthamstow. So it was saying, well, if it's a warm day, perhaps I would quite like to swoosh my hair up and have a lighter feel, which I did, and it felt great, I would say. It's also picking up on the fact that I'm in London and it's London Fashion Week, so there's a lot of content that's been delivered around that. And it's creating, you can see like the two squares on the left, summer evening party hair. That's based, the reason they've created that content is because people are coming into YouTube and Google and typing in summer party hair, or how do I do this? So they're not just creating it in the hope that someone's actually going to be interested in it. They know in advance, they know when they sign off the budget to make that video, that X number of people are looking for that type of comment, so they're meeting the need. And then that means when we look at the view figures on these, they outstrip. It's now the biggest category channel in the UK because they're actually filling a relevant need. They've used the data to do that. And I think we're going to start to see a lot more. We would call this hygiene content. It's where you are fulfilling a need that the audience is expressing through one of the tools that's available to you. So those were the things I just wanted to share. I think I've managed to stick to time pretty well. Just a quick summary. So, we talked about mobile at the start. I think a big challenge there for brands is small's beautiful. Don't think about mobile just being a device. Think about it as being a behavior as well. Think about the content that somebody needs when they're on the go versus when they're on a sofa watching TV and doing multi-screen. And also, from an agency perspective, brand manager perspective, how are you orchestrating that environment? And we see two really clear behaviors with mobile. One is simultaneous usage, so using it along with televisions. And then the other is sequential, so using different devices throughout the day. And obviously there's a different information need when you do that. From a video perspective, it's storytelling skills. We've been doing it since we were cavemen. People enjoy a story. Agencies, you're in the perfect place to be able to tell that brand story as well. It's just now that the canvas is bigger. You're not restricted. Think about how many amazing creative ideas have then become a 15-second TV slot. You don't have that limitation anymore. Dove sketches, the videos were like 2.5, 3 minutes long. You've got the canvas to be able to to play around here. Think about what you can learn from the natives. So you've got like a panel of YouTube creators. They've all built up these audiences by using certain techniques. We also work with them to identify what works, and that's something that we can really help and share. I think as well about what the Mark Pritchard quote here: be true, be authentic, make people give a crap rather than trying to force stuff down their throat, and don't make any digital landfill. The last thing we need is that kind of web microsite that gets 2,000 users. Data-driven media, we hear a lot about programmatic. It tends to, that conversation tends to anchor itself very much in DR, but I would say there's a whole wealth of information that brand advertising can take advantage of, really start to help get some clarity from the chaos. Then the final thing is, don't be scared. It's not too late to be early. There's still a lot of environment there where you can test, learn, reiterate. We see a lot of advertisers on YouTube trying out 3 different versions of a TV ad. L'Oreal just did it recently. They tried 3 different versions of a TV ad, and then the one that got the best response rates, they actually ran on television. So there's a lot of test environments that you can play around with, but then also think about the disciplines, the processes that you need in place to be able to take advantage of that. So that's everything from me. Hopefully that was useful. Do you want me to do questions, Candice, or?
Let's have 1, maybe 2 questions for Steve.
And I'm around for most of the day as well, so happy to, if anyone wants to come and ask me face to face.
Anybody got a quick one? Okay,
I'm
thank
done.
you.
Thank you, cheers.
Wonderful, thanks Steve.